AI. AI writing is something that makes me extremely uncomfortable. And I find that AI as a tool can be an amazing thing, but people aren't using it as a tool. They want to use it to do the work for them. And there's a fundamental difference between that and originality and creation. Now, I'll paraphrase this by saying that for an art program I uses rough AI for perspective and distance. And the reason I use that, because I have to measure everything out, I'm short-sighted in one eye and long-sighted in the other. So my depth of field and perception of perspective is skewed, to say the least. So it makes it quite interesting. I wear contact lenses to try and correct that, but everything is just ever so slightly off. And it shows sometimes, to say the least, on the subject. AI should be a tool, not the go-to method. And I'm not going to get into the legal standpoints here because that's a whole minefield of another video. But I will go into the ethical and moral, but also, and I have a conspiracy theory, that AI has been used by companies for a very long time. Just because of the generic writing that seems to be happening now, everything very much feels the same. And I had a play with some of the AI writing programs over the last week or two to see what would happen. And I'm not impressed, to say the least, on the subject. Partly because the one that everyone's talking about is very much skewed one way. There is an automatic bias programmed into it. But also, doesn't matter what prompts you use, how you use them, or how you create and write and do all this stuff, is that it feels the same voice. It doesn't matter what you're attempting, that there is a generic tone to it, and it's almost too perfect. It's missing a level of humanity, and I think that's the problem. Humanity. Creative persons, I'm trying to publish a book, creative people put a lot of themselves into their work, and if yourself is not being put in, it shows. An AI, and it's very difficult to quantify into words, but AI creates this robotic, flat poise. It doesn't feel particularly strong, and it feels like, if anything, it feels like one of those practice books. I don't know if you guys will know what I'm talking about with this, but when I was in school, we used to get practice books on how to format essays, and it reminds me so much of that style of writing that it feels too artificial. And it's AI, of course it's artificial. The problem I have is also companies now using Ubisoft are going to be using AI to help with the air quotes, help with their scripts. They're going to be using it. There's been articles published that they're going to start using it in film and TV. And I want to say it could be the reason why many TV shows are currently so terrible and generic. That same voice, that same poise, and why often certain TV shows lift and borrow lines from so many other things that it almost feels as if they want to get away from the humans. I do understand this need, personal experience here. I hired an artist for a project. There was constant delays and the project was not completed by them. What they did was, instead of doing the work that they were paid to do, and they did get fired, by the way, they spent their entire time drawing Steve's Universe fan art and posting on their Instagram and DeviantArt pretty much 5 or 6 drawings a day. And I cut ties with them because they weren't completing the work. And I'm not the only was it Adventure Time, maybe? I don't even know what they were creating. It was something. They didn't create what they were being paid to create and created something else. I also find that this need to project yourself into everything, where sometimes you need to be more clinical with your writing and art, you need to step back from it and look at it in a more emotionless, clinical sense. And I firmly believe that. Sometimes I look at my own writing and think, okay, If I was a reader, I'm not enjoying this. If I was the writer, I'm the writer, I am enjoying this. So you have to step back. The problem is, if you're taking the human out of your work completely, there is a problem there. And I know that the graphics design industry is predominantly dying. Most companies have external now rather than in-house, which I do understand why. But for writing, it can be a problem. I think when you play with these AI writing programs, when you start just typing in prompts and doing stuff and creating stuff and all of this stuff, again, generic. It doesn't give you anything big. It doesn't give you anything good. It gives you something generic. It gives you a generic, humanless project that often feels very, very disconnected. And it feels as if, and having read some of the AI stuff that I've seen people create, it all, like I said, it's the same voice. It's the same style. There's no... For example, if you read a Brandon Sanderson novel, you know you're reading Sanderson. If you read Tolkien, you know you're reading Tolkien. If you are reading... God knows. I'll pick on the book that's in front of me. Angela's Ashes. He has a very distinctive voice. And that carries through into Tits. He has a distinctive writing style and distinctive voice. And I'm looking at the books there. I've got some real classics. I've got some Conan. I've got... God, I mean, there's a lot there. And each one of these writers in this mound has a distinct voice, has a distinct style. And once you strip the humanity, the human out of that work, and it creates this very generic, flat, same style, same voice, same product, same... It's an homogenized product rather than a creative work. And that's ultimately the problem. I also think it's taking writers out of a job. And in fairness, there are some atrocious writers with jobs right now that will remain nameless, but they are atrocious. But at least there's a human there. I may not like what they're writing, but there is a human there. There is a voice. There is something distinct. And unlike AI, where it ends up falling into this weird realm of just, for want of a better word, this novel was written by Borg Drone 7775. They all have that same thing, and I don't agree with AI in this context because you're stripping creatives out of the creative process. But then again, I think they've been doing it for a long time. I think it's been around for a long time, and writing prompts websites have been a thing for years, and they're a great exercise tool. Believe it or not, The Slave Prince, my fantasy novel that I'm working on, started as a writing prompt for an exercise I was doing in a class, and it grew into The Slave Prince. So having writing prompts is great as a creative because it allows you to envision something. But what's written now after 15 rewrites and countless edits is fundamentally different to the writing prompt and what was first written. I think if you're going to strip something out of writing, if you're going to strip what makes writing so good, and it's such a personal process, it's such a creative process, and it's a wonderful process, you take out something that fundamentally is important. And I do feel like a lot of articles online on these websites are written by AI, or at least based somewhere at the moment. Because again, same use of language, same style of writing, often the same identical points built up across multiple articles, but they're all more or less worded the same. Even the context behind the point is the same. And I think it creates disingenuous reviews are a thing, but also this as a creative tool, AI writing is something I'm fundamentally very against, and something that I think just strips so much out of it that you lose something. I may not like a writer's work, but I can say this: you know who the writer is. You know their style, you know their work, you know their flow, their voice, which is often what I think translated fiction gets a lot of, loses a lot, and why I have progressively learnt to read in a few languages. It's one of those subject matters that I'm very passionate about, and I don't want to see humanity and humans and a soul, that's the word I'll use, a soul, stripped out of writing, stripped out of something. Where we live in an age where anyone can publish a book, and there is a well-known self-published indie writer, and I'll use that loosely, because the books are not a person. The writer is not real. They're written by a committee. And I'm pretty sure the early ones were written on Fiverr. Actually, I know they're written by committee because the writer is not a real person at all. It's like 20 people. And they're a bestseller, and they've done all the very disingenuous things, such as paying for Amazon and Goodreads reviews. And also have bred this really obsessive base of fans who, how dare you say something bad about her? Well, I know the truth. I know the truth. I'm pretty sure a lot of her quotes, recent works are AI influenced just because of the sudden correction course in spelling, grammar, story construction. But also the books are basically fan fiction cash-ins on other series. And I will do another video about this writer at some point in the future, because it's quite an interesting case. I feel, personally, this is how I feel on the subject matter, is that once you take the human element out of something, it's just an homogenized product. Regardless of legality, regardless of morals, ethics, whatever, the product becomes soulless, it becomes homogenized. Imagine Angela's Ashes written by AI. Imagine Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology written by AI. It would lose, it might be the same book, but it would lose that voice. It would be generic. They would both read the same, and that unique style of the writer would be stripped. So no, please let's not go down this route of AI, even though I'm pretty sure most companies have been using it for a long time in terms of script writing. I think it's very disingenuous, and I do think something needs to be put in legally where it states, quite thing, this show or this script or partially was created using AI, and credit the program, because it, again, stripping, it's like Australia. If you go to see a singer, there has to be a thing in the information that states if the singer is singing live or lip syncing. Or there's lip synced elements. And I mean, I've seen Janet Jackson live. About a quarter of that show was lipped, but it was a good show. But the rest of it was live. So, it's that kind of weird, out of 28 songs, I would say about 10 of them were lip synced. And it's just that, but it was very obvious. It was no secret. It was actually in the reviews that I'd read of the show before. And singers do use playback on stage. Again, extra instrumentation, extra backing vocals, stuff like that. They come off tapes. Credit the AI program. State, legally, put this into law that the AI program was involved in this script. Because I think as a consumer of a product, honesty and openness is extremely important. And if you are not open and honest about your creative process, that is a problem. And it breeds this very disingenuous, very shady thing. And are you getting paid for using an AI program to write your work? Because if you are, even if you're just changing words or stuff as you go, you change words, you insert stuff, whatever. I think you should only be getting paid how much your value of the work that you're putting in. So if you're only putting in 5% of this article or script, you should only be getting paid a very small amount of money. You know, I think we need to kind of step back and look at this and realize that AI is a tool, not the product. And using a tool is great. Learning how to use a new tool is amazing. But turning that tool into the be-all and end-all of anything is ridiculous. And I will add, if someone is writing something, creating something using AI, what stops a company from taking a random stock photo of a person, creating a writer, and having all their articles written by AI? There is some ground here that's morally bad and morally bankrupt. So, yeah. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I know this is a long video, but I felt like I needed to get this off my chest. I will talk to you guys later. Like, subscribe, videos 3 times a week. And I hope you have a wonderful day.